Hello, everybody, and welcome to
Friday Apocryphal Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything Friday Apocryphal and podcast.
And boy, do we have a show for you today.
This is going to get continually worse when we do different
Yeah,
podcasts.
it really will, but we're trying.
Like when we start up the Criticism of Quran podcast.
Yeah, welcome to Criticism.
Welcome to Friday, Sunday.
Welcome to
Friday,
Monday,
Sunday,
Tuesday,
every day.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Your
Welcome
one-stop shop
for every
Monday,
day of the
Tuesday,
week.
Yep.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
And boy, do we have a week for you.
Yeah,
Love
that is tradition, apparently. So today we are going over the third and final parable of Enoch, and after this, we will be getting into the astronomical book.
Holy cow, Batman.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So 58 to 71 today.
Yeah, so
It's going to be
it's quite long.
a long run.
And that Hermenia commentary goes over the astronomical book as well.
Yes, it does.
Yes, but it didn't go over the Book of the Watchers.
No.
Because there's enough books out there about the Book of the Watchers.
No. They actually wrote a commentary on the Book of the Watchers.
Oh, was it good?
I don't know. We
Oh.
we don't have that one.
Shoot. Well, I guess we're never going to cover it.
Well, we already did the Book of the Watchers.
Yep.
So I believe you have an introductory thing.
Yes, as is tradition. The third parable also has a bit in the introduction of the Book of Enoch. I should also say, First Enoch, the Hermenia translation by George W.E. Nicholsburg and James C. Vanderkam.
Yeah, and those are the same guys that wrote this Hermenia commentary that we are using.
And we also have Eerdman's
commentary
Guide to
on
Everything.
the Bible. Guide to Everything, yes, absolutely.
Anyways, let's get into this. The third parable focuses on the great judgment itself. The climactic tableau in chapters 62 through 63 employs a traditional judgment scene, attested also in Wisdom of Solomon 4 through 5. That's cool. We're going to go over that eventually.
Yeah, we will.
The present text begins with the exaltation of the chosen one, a servant title. The kings and the mighty who stand before him are the counterpart of the audience in Isaiah 52 through 53. Verse 2 draws on the language of Isaiah 11:2. For the messianic strand of the chosen one tradition, the kings and the mighty petition for mercy without success and are driven from the presence of the Lord and delivered to the angels of punishment. The author shifts the focus to the righteous and chosen and to their coming deliverance and fellowship, with their helper and champion, the Son of Man. Chapter 63 is the counterpart of the confession in Isaiah 53, 1 through 6. I'm sure you're going to have something to say about that when we get to it.
Yeah, there's also a really cool addition to this book that we're going to cover as well, or this parable.
All right, another couple paragraphs. Chapters 65 through 68 are a collection of Noachic traditions. The story in chapter 65 is closely related to 1 Enoch 83 through 84 and 106 through 107, and presumes a typology between the flood and the last judgment. That the scene in 69, 26 through 29 belongs with the judgment scene in chapters 62 through 63. The book of parables in its present form has two conclusions. The first briefly recounts Enoch's final removal from the earth, 71 through 2. The second, 73 through 17, is Enoch's own summarizing account of his removal to paradise and his ascent to heaven, where instead of being commissioned to be a prophet of judgment, chapters 14 through 16, he is presented as the Son of Man who was born for righteousness. The parables can be dated sometime around the turn of the era. What era? It doesn't say.
Well, it'll be the turn of the millennia.
Yeah, it goes into this.
Yeah.
The reference to the Parthians and the Medes in 56:5 may refer to the invasion in 40 BCE, just before the beginning of the reign of Herod the Great. At the very least, the description of the chosen one / Son of Man, if not the entire book, is presumed in the gospel traditions about Jesus, the Son of Man.
Oh, look who's here. It's our good buddy Pimp Monk.
Hey, welcome to the show, Pimp Monk.
Yeah.
We haven't had him on in quite some time.
Yeah, we haven't had a lot of people on in quite some time because we
Yeah.
are having those issues with having guests on currently.
But we will get them solved.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get into this. The third parable, chapter
Yes.
58. And I began to speak the third parable concerning the righteous and concerning the chosen. Blessed are you, righteous and chosen, for glorious will be your lot. The righteous will be in the light of the sun, and the chosen in the light of everlasting life. The days of their life will have no end, and the days of the holy will be innumerable. They will seek the light and find righteousness with the Lord of spirits. There will be peace for the righteous in the name of the eternal Lord. And after this, it will be said to the holy ones that they should seek in heaven the secrets of righteousness, the lot of faith. For the sun has risen upon the earth. There's a footnote. Most manuscripts read, it has become bright as the sun upon the earth. And darkness has passed away. There will be light that does not cease, and to a limit of days they will not come, for darkness will first have been destroyed, and light will endure before the Lord of spirits. The light of truth will endure forever before the Lord of spirits.
Of course it will.
Of course it will.
So that was the end of chapter 58.
Yes, the introduction to the third parable.
Yeah. So before we get into chapters 59 through 60, there's an interesting little textual problem. And I'm just going to cover a few of the notes here from the Hermenia commentary. So chapters 59 through 60 contain several literary disjunctions that indicate a displacement or an interpolation in the text or both. The present sequence of the text is as follows. 59, 1 through 3, Enoch sees the secrets of the lightnings, the luminaries, and the thunder. 60, 1 through 6, in the 500th year of the life of Noah, we're going to get over that. We're going to go over that.
Yes.
Enoch views a scene in the heavenly throne room where Michael sends, quote, another angel to support him. And then Michael predicts how God's mercy and long-suffering will give way to punishment on the day of judgment. 67 through 10, Noah describes the separation of the two monsters, the Leviathan and Behemoth, which we also covered during Job.
Yes.
And queries, quote, another angel who replies briefly that you wish to know what is hidden.
And I'm sure we'll have a lot to say about the Leviathan and Behemoth when we get there.
Oh, yeah, we definitely will. 60, 11 through 22, the other angel who went with me and showed me what was hidden escorts me through the heavens, showing the visionary the storehouses and activities of the winds, the thunders, and the lightning. 60:23, this verse places the vision near the garden of the righteous. 60:24a, the angel of peace explains these two monsters. 60:24b through 25, this predicts the judgment and the punishment of the Lord of spirits, and after that, quote, his mercy and long suffering. The disjunction in the text are readily evident. 1, 2 sections of material about hidden heavenly phenomena, and that was, of course, 59, 1 through 3, and 60, 11 through 2. One about the lightnings and the thunders, and the other about the winds and the thunders and the lightnings, are separated by a scene in the heavenly throne room. 2 sections are about the two monsters, are separated from each other by a description of Enoch's tour of the heavens, and a verse locating the place of Noah's vision. 3, 2 sections on God's mercy and long suffering and his judgment are separated by sections. So as you can see, the themes themselves are separated, and that's kind of what they're outlining here.
Yes. And after today, we will be roughly halfway through the book of Enoch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to have to do a book review of this one, too.
That'll be fun.
Once we get done with the Deuteronomistic history.
Yeah. Once we get done with that.
How long is that going to take?
Like,
Because I saw the skeleton notes.
Yeah, the thing is, we're not even done with the skeleton
Oh,
notes.
jeez.
Yeah, the review is going to be like 2 hours long.
Yeah, it's going to be quite long. We got a lot of stuff to say.
Yeah. Well, anyways, let me get into chapter 59 here. The secrets of the winds and other heavenly phenomena. In those days, now we remember this phrase before being like, this I have heard, basically.
Yeah.
Or this I have seen in my heavenly visions, right? My eyes saw the secrets of the lightnings and the luminaries and their laws. They flash for a blessing or a curse, as the Lord of spirits wills. So this is curses and blessings being thrown from heaven to the earth.
Yes.
Yes. So that's what lightning is. And there I saw the secrets of the thunder. There's a cross that starts here and ends at almost the end of verse 2. I'm just pointing it out now. I'll point out where the cross ends, and then there's a footnote. And there I saw the secrets of the thunder, and how when it crashes in the heights of heaven, its sound is heard in the dwelling places of the earth. He showed me the sound of the thunder for peace and blessings, or for a curse. Here's where the cross ends. The footnote says, these 3 lines are corrupt, and commentators dispute on how to resolve the problem. So is there anything... Well, let me finish the verse. According to the word of the Lord of spirits. Is there anything in either Erdman's or the commentary there which goes into depth about that?
Well, for part of it at least. So there are some manuscripts that have a variety of plural, mainly forms of madar, dwellings, prefaced by wa, and then he references another commentator. I don't know his full name, but it says with black, I amend wa to ba, in or among. And then another part, he showed me, it references some of the manuscripts, and that apparently have they showed me, and then references those manuscripts.
Okay. Well, maybe if we had like 12 more commentaries, we could compare and contrast.
Maybe if we had more manuscripts.
Yeah. Like we should just get like 20 Book of Enoch manuscripts in the original
the actual ones.
Yeah.
No, like the actual ones, the ones that they keep.
Ancient ones.
Yeah, so we'll leave them here.
Yep.
This is not a climate-controlled environment, so they are prone to being completely degraded.
As was the intention of their authors.
Oh, totally.
They wouldn't have put all that acid in the ink and the paper and parchment. Come on, man.
You wouldn't want all those secrets to get out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the Agrippa poem. After that, all the secrets of the luminaries and the lightnings were shown to me, how they flash for blessing and for satisfaction. There's a footnote. 2 lines look like a doublet of verse 1. 2 factors support moving 60, 11 through 23 to a position before 61 through 10. 1. The reference to the 2 monsters in verse 24 presumes verses 7 through 10 immediately before verses 24 through 25. 2. Moving verse 11 through 23 forward before 61 juxtaposes material about the lightnings and thunders with the other cosmological material. And that's the end of chapter. Well, it's the end of this part of chapter 59 before it jumps into. Well, I guess it is the end of chapter 59 because now it goes into the second half of chapter 60, and then later it goes back into the first half of chapter 60. Okay, well, I'll probably hand this off to you at 61.
Sure.
And this is chapter 60, verse 11. And the other angel who went with me and showed...
Actually, hold on. Before we hop into that, there is something here from Erdman. So chapter 60 is a Noah apocalypse, clumsily altered to read Enoch rather than Noah in its opening statement. The references in verse 1 to the 500th year in the life of Enoch, who only had 365, and in verse 8 to, quote, my great-grandfather, the seventh from Adam, give the game away. The chapter is structured as an odd kind of chiasmus in which the second part of each pair does not mirror the first, but simply continues an interrupted narrative, and then it breaks it all down. But yeah, it was it's an alteration.
Well, let's get into it. 60, verse 11. And the other angel who went with me and showed me what is hidden told me, what is first and last in heaven in the height, and beneath the earth in the abyss, and at the ends of heaven, and on the foundation of heaven, and in the storehouses of the winds, how the winds are divided, and how they are weighed, and how the springs, I'm assuming that this is a questionable word because there's two crosses around it and a question mark in parentheses.
Which verse?
Verse 12.
Verse 12. Okay.
Of 60.
All right. So yeah, it looks like so is it around the word in, you said?
And
Or-
how the springs of the winds are divided and numbered. Springs being the word in question. And I can just show
Oh,
you.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So all manuscripts except 2080 read the springs of the winds, or the springs and the winds. So manuscript 2080 has an erasure and a strike through in place of the first noun. That's interesting.
Yes. All right. According to the power of the wind and the power of the light of the moon, and according to the power of righteousness, and the divisions of the stars according to their names, and how all the divisions are made, and the thunders according to the place where they fall, and the divisions that are made among the lightnings, that they may flash, and their hosts, that they may obey at once. For to the thunder resting places were given, as it awaits its voice. And the thunder and the lightning are not separated, and although they are not one, by the wind the two of them go and are not separated. For when the lightning flashes, the thunder utters its voice, and the wind at the right time causes it to rest, and it divides equally between them. For the storehouse of their times is like that of the sand, and each of them is checked by a rain, and is turned back by the power of the wind, and driven thus according to the many regions of the earth. So, before I move on here, it's noteworthy that there are three kind of, I don't know if you want to call them classical elements that are here, right?
Right.
There is the power of wind, the power of the light of the moon, and the power of righteousness.
I wouldn't really call that one a classical element.
Yeah, an Enochian elements.
You guys remember Avatar: The Last Airbender? They go fire,
No.
earth, water, air, and righteousness.
righteousness.
They just throw that one in there.
And the light of the moon.
Oh, sure, yeah. No,
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty close. They got that in there.
Yeah. The wind of the sea is masculine and strong. And
Yeah. You could say that again.
Okay, go ahead.
the wind of the sea is masculine and strong. And according to the power of its strength, it draws it back with a rain. And thus it is driven and scattered into all the mountains of the earth. The wind of the frost is its own angel, and the wind of the hail is a good angel. The wind of the snow, God, has released because of its power, and the spirit in it is special. And what arises from it is like smoke, and its name is Frost.
So now they're personifying all these things.
Well, they're angelifying these things.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're angelifying. I don't know what you tried to say, but I think that's a better term.
Is angelifying a word?
I don't think so.
either?
No, but it at least fits the grammar rules as opposed to whatever you said.
I guess. And the wind of the mist is not mingled with them in their storehouses, but has a special storehouse, because its course is glorious, both in light and in darkness, and in winter and in summer, and in its storehouse is an angel. Manuscripts differ in their wording of this line.
What's the line?
And in its storehouse is an angel.
What's the verse?
19. 19.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, in its storehouse is light, and it is an angel. And then the other manuscripts say, it is an angel.
The wind of the dew, its dwelling is at the ends of heaven, and it is connected with the storehouses of the rain, and its course is in winter and summer, and its clouds and the clouds of the mist are associated, and the one gives to the other. And when the wind of the rain moves from its storehouse, the angels come and open the storehouse and bring it out. And when it's scattered on all the dry land, it is joined with the water that is on the dry land. And whenever it is joined with the water on the dry land, it says, a line appears to have been dropped here. For the waters are for those who dwell on the dry land, for they are nourishment for the dry land from the Most High, who is in heaven. Therefore there is a measure for the rain, and the angels are given charge of it. All these things I saw toward the garden of the righteous. And then it goes back to verse 60, chapter 60, verse 1.
Yeah. So about it's really interesting how so much of this specific chapter has been about rains and winds and thunder and snow and all.
Yes, it's all like storm imagery. There's also the light of the moon and the power of righteousness.
Yeah. So the author's focus on the forms of moisture climaxes with his description of the rain in verse 21. Alongside the snow, rain is the heaviest of the forms of moisture mentioned in this section. And in Palestine, it is the most productive. Thus, special attention is paid to the angels who open the storehouses of its winds, so that it can be scattered across the dry land with whose water it is joined. Perhaps there is an implied contrast here with the flood. At that time, God judged wicked humanity by opening the windows of heaven and joining the waters above with the waters beneath the earth. God's created intention, however, is that the angels open the storehouses of the rain so that waters above join with the waters on the earth to produce a fruitful environment for an obedient humanity. The last line of the verse, this is verse 21, by the way. The last line of the verse is either a didagraph of the previous line or has lost its final clause, which would have described the results of the rain.
Yes, and you know, if they're going to go into the flood here, then I guess it's fine that they split it off in this way, because
you did
we know
mention
the
that
mechanism.
This was Noah and replaced by Enoch.
Yeah. So
funny.
Well, we'll get into that.
Okay.
Right. Verse 1 of chapter 60,
Yeah.
the flood and the final judgment. In the year 500, in the 7th month, on the 14th of the month, in the life of Noah, footnote, all manuscripts read Enoch instead of Noah. In that parable, I saw how a mighty quaking made the heaven of heavens quake, and the host of the Most High and the angels, thousands of thousands and 10,000 times 10,000.
As you can see in our background image,
Yes.
there's a lot of angels.
Now, these aren't literal numerations.
I don't think so.
Were greatly disturbed. And the head of days was sitting on the throne of his glory, and the holy and righteous angels were standing around him.
And if you remember the head of days, we've seen that already in the book of Enoch, in the parables, actually. And it is very close to the Ancient of Days in Daniel.
Yes.
Which was also a title for El.
Yes. And great trembling took hold of me, and fear seized me. There's a footnote here. Some good manuscripts omit the verb seize, but they have it in this one because this translation was based on some other manuscript, I guess. And my loins were crushed, and my kidneys were loosened, and I fell on my face. And Michael sent another angel from among the holy ones, and he raised me up. And when he raised me up, my spirit returned, for I had not been able to endure the appearance of that host, and its turmoil, and the quaking of the heavens. So, the heavens quake, just like the earth quakes.
Yeah.
Heaven also has ends, like the earth has ends.
Yeah. In the same sense.
As above, so below theme still going.
Yeah.
Yes. So heaven is not infinite, at least within the Enochic.
I don't think this should be taken literally. Like, I don't think the author of this is like, I wonder where the ends of heaven are. What's over there? Is it like the ends of the earth you fall off? What if you go to the end of heaven and fall off back to the earth? I don't think that's what was going through his head.
The edges meet up. You just keep falling.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
it's the end for everybody.
Okay, it's like space time. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yep, curved. And Michael sent another angel from among the holy ones, and he raised me up. And when he raised me up, my spirit returned, for I had not been able to endure the appearance of that host and its turmoil and the quaking of heavens. And Michael said to me, "What have you seen that you're so disturbed? Until today has the day of his mercy lasted, and he has been merciful and long-suffering to those who dwell on earth. And when the day and the power and the punishment and the judgment come, which the Lord of spirits has prepared for those who do not worship the righteous judges," there are two footnotes here. For those who do not worship, it says all but one manuscript omits the negative, which seems necessary for the meaning of the line. And when it says worship the righteous judges, not judges, there's greater than, less than signs around it. It says amended from judgment, perhaps reflecting a mistranslation of Aramaic din or din. And for those who deny the righteous judgment, and for those who take his name in vain, ... And that day has been prepared for the elect, a covenant for the sinners, a visitation. It says in the footnote, the bracketed passage that follows interrupts the continuity of 60 verse 6 and 60 verse 24c, and may be an interpolation in the text. So there's a bracketed section that starts here and ends in the middle of verse 24. I'll tell you when it ends, basically. And on that day, two monsters were separated, the female monster whose name is Leviathan, to dwell in the depths of the sea above the fountains of the waters. But the name of the male is Behemoth, who occupies with his breast the trackless desert named crosses Dundain, one of the several forms of the name. This is similar to Dodial.
Yes. So if we go back to 10:4 in the Book of the Watchers, they say that maybe it's the Dudael of 10:4.
Okay. Yes. Dundain, east of the garden, where the chosen and righteous dwell, where my great-grandfather was taken up, the seventh from Adam, the first man whom the Lord of Spirits created. This is obviously referring to Enoch. And I asked another angel, there's a footnote, it says, or the other angel. Other manuscripts read this angel and that angel.
Right. It would technically be referring to Noah.
Noah is the seventh from Adam who was taken up.
Oh, no. Okay, I thought you were talking about something else. Okay.
No. And I asked another angel to show me the might of those monsters, how they were separated in one day and were thrown into the depth of the sea, and the other into the dry land of the desert. And he said to me, Here, Son of man, you wish to know what is hidden. And the angel of peace who was with me said, These two monsters, prepared according to the greatness of the Lord, will provide food for the chosen and righteous. There's a little bit here that just basically says that this ends the bracketed section. I'm just going to finish this verse before we get into it. So that the punishment of the Lord of Spirits rests upon them, in order that the punishment of the Lord of Spirits does not go forth in vain.
Yeah, so the food stuff, we're going to get back to why Behemoth and Leviathan are in here in the first place, but the food stuff. So they're prepared for the great day of the Lord to become food, alluding to a widespread Jewish legend that these beasts will provide the main entree at the great eschatological feast. And that's in 2nd Esdras, the second apocalypse of Baruch. So that's some more traditions find their way in.
How in Job, Yahweh was talking about how he fished up Leviathan. Now he's going to fry him up.
Yeah. And
her.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be...
Leviathan is female.
Yes. I'm sure it's going to be delicious. Or I don't know, maybe
Leviathan, $99.99. It's not cheap because we got one.
I feel like it might be a little too gamey. I don't know. So this narrative about the Leviathan Behemoth, the legendary beasts best known from the latter chapters of Job.
Yes.
The two were separated from each other in primeval times and assigned different homes. The female Leviathan to the sea, and the male Behemoth to the wilderness. And Dundayan, as we talked about.
Yes.
Located east of the garden, quote, where the chosen and righteous are and where my great-grandfather was taken. We are reminded of the strange menagerie east of paradise, which Enoch mentions in passing in the book of the Watchers. So maybe we can talk a little bit about this interpolation. So from the Hermenia commentary, these verses, which constitute an interpolation between two closely related parts of Michael's oracle, verses 5 through 6 and 24b through 25, preserve a part of an eschatological tradition that is attested also in the twin apocalyptic texts 4th Ezra and 2nd Baruch from the late 1st century or early 2nd century CE. And that is reflected in later rabbinic writings. And then he breaks apart the two texts. Would you like me to read those texts or not? They're not very long.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So this first one. Then, the fifth day of creation, verse 47, you preserved two living creatures which you created. The name of one you called Behemoth, and the name of the other Leviathan. And you separated one from the other. For the seventh part, where the water has been gathered together, could not hold them both. And you gave Behemoth one of the parts that had been dried up on the third day to live in it, where there are 8,000 mountains. But to Leviathan you gave the seventh part of the watery part, and you have kept them to be eaten by whom you will and when you will. And that's 4th Ezra, 6:49 through 57, if anyone's wondering. And then the second one from 2nd Baruch, at the time that the Anointed One begins to be revealed, Behemoth will reveal itself from its place, and Leviathan will come up from the sea, the two great monsters which I created on the 5th day of creation, and which I shall have kept until that time, and they will be nourished for all who are left. That's 2 Baruch 29:4.
I think it would be inappropriate to posit that the author intended these to be references to Canaanite gods by the time of this writing.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Or any other kind of gods in the region. I don't know about the specific, like, obscure desert tribes.
Right.
That's what Chris is for. Not this Chris.
Not me, no. And I would just say, someone wiped them out. My bad.
Yeah. Let me finish off chapter 60. And the children will be killed with their mothers, and the children with their fathers.
Good.
At least they're not eating them.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, that's...
Oh, wasn't there... I forget the name of the guy, but there was someone in the Bible who, we went over it. I think it was in the Deuteronomistic history, who either ate their kid or, sent their kid off to be eaten by someone.
They made a deal with a family
Yeah.
that said, hey, we're so low on food that today we'll eat our kid, but tomorrow we eat your kid. And they
something like that.
Yeah,
but
and
I
one of
forget
them
where
went through with the
was.
deal, and the other was like, no, we don't want to do it anymore.
I forget where that was. If someone can pull that up or reference that, that'd be great, because I have forgotten.
Yes. And obviously, I think it was Deuteronomy, that's where God talks about, or Moses talks about God talking about the people eating their own children when they're cursed by God.
Atheists
Oh, yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Deuteronomy 28.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you go.
I remember that one because that was an intense read. I had to read that one. I was like, there's so much crazy shit in here.
Yeah.
Like the curses, they're nuts, man. Go read Deuteronomy 28. It's crazy.
After the show.
After the show.
But
And in fact, watch our reading of Deuteronomy 28.
Yeah. Priceless commentary.
we read
and
it so you
reactions.
don't have to.
yeah. But let me finish up here. When the punishment of the Lord of Spirits rests upon them, afterward will be the judgment according to his mercy and his long suffering. And that's the end of chapter 60.
Here's actually something that's kind of neat. So among the three relevant texts, of course, this one and then the two discussed in here, only First Enoch 60 provides a name for Behemoth's habitat, although the manuscripts vary to what it is, and probably all of them are corrupt. Nonetheless, both groups of options appear to reflect the name of Asael's place of banishment in the desert, according to First Enoch 10:4, and that's the Judayin. So Miluk, another scholar, sees there a reference to the two breasts of El, Judael, and accepts the reading Dendayin here. This he takes to be a rendering of the dual form of Dedayin, two breasts, which provide a connection to the breast of Behemoth. One way or another, there appears to be a connection between the name of the desert in 68 and in the name of the desert in 10:4. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So here I will hand over the commentary to you.
Yeah. And
Both
feel
of the
free to
commentaries.
hand back the book itself whenever you want, I guess.
Okay. All right. So 61.
Yes.
Yes. And I saw in those days long cords were given to these angels, and they took for themselves wings and flew and went toward the north. And of course, actually, I'm going to get into it in just a bit. And I asked the angel, why did these take the cords and go? And he said to me, they went so that they may measure. And the angel who went with me said to me, these will bring the measurements of the righteous and the ropes of the righteous to the righteous, so that they may rely on the name of the Lord of spirits forever and ever. So this whole measuring theme, right?
Yes.
That pops
It's not
up.
a literal measurement of space.
Right. In this case, it's a measurement of the righteous. like their number and stuff.
Yeah, this commentary, the Hermenia commentary states
This
that
commentary got to be a bit more specific.
verses 1 through 2 say the scene appears to be based on Zechariah 2, 1 through 5, where it quotes, "And I lifted my eyes and saw, and behold!"
Behold! We don't have to put that one down.
No. "A man with a measuring line in his hand. Then I said, 'Where are you going?' And he said to me, 'To measure Jerusalem, to see what its breadth and what its length.'"
Yeah. So the interesting thing about this this kind of measurement imagery, it plays a prominent role in Jeremiah and Ezekiel, and it's later used in Revelation as well, where I actually covered that in my Forged Fiction video on Revelation, that I think the one in Revelation is based closer on Ezekiel because of the parallel terms. But this measurement imagery happens quite a lot, though. And we see it often, especially in relation to apocalyptic texts.
Yes. And Eerdmans notes that the measurements under angelic supervision is common in Ezekiel 5Q15, Revelations 11:1, 21:15, and they involve finding the dimensions of Jerusalem. But Enoch 61 states that the cords are to be given to the righteous so that they may lean upon the name of the Lord as spirits forever and ever.
Right. So for verse 3 there, the end of it, I'm not fully understanding that one. Not fully grasping that one.
Well, let's look at it. Which part?
So that they may rely on the name of the Lord of spirits forever and ever.
Well, presumably,
maybe just because there's a lot of them.
I mean, the measurement of...
How many are there?
A lot of them.
The measurements of the righteous, that could be like... maybe like...
Maybe as long as there is a measurement of the righteous.
We talked about how God has justice and he has literal scales, kind of, to weigh things in terms of against a very solidified concept of something.
Well, there's also the Davidic census, right?
Well, what I'm saying is this could be a literal manifestation of righteousness that you would be compared to.
Yeah, and if that were to be delivered to people, then maybe they could do something with it. But it obviously has not, because, I mean, unless you take the stance that everything you need to know about morality is contained within the Bible. Right, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. Have you read it? They probably haven't read it.
It's pretty lopsided.
They probably read the Jesus stuff. They were like, there's a lot of good stuff in here. And then they just didn't bother with the stuff that, Jesus actually read about, which is probably the other stuff.
Yeah.
You mean the Apocryphal?
So, well, maybe some of them. Yeah.
The implication being likely that if heavenly divine beings did deliver accurate information that no human possibly could have gathered, then that would be enough to have people have faith in it forever, right?
Or maybe as long as there is a measurement of people, then the faith will survive. Maybe.
Well, let's look through. They don't really say anything about.
I mean, I can keep reading, and you can check the Hermenia commentary for verse 3 there.
Yeah,
okay.
Because
they probably have it. Yeah.
Tell me when you get to the end of verse 4, because that's the kind of section that they have.
Okay. And the chosen will begin to dwell with the chosen. And these are the measurements that will be given to faith, and they will strengthen righteousness. That's the end of verse 4.
Okay. Well, let me just read out this section then. As in 52, 3 through 5, and 60, verse 10 and verse 24. The author introduces a second interpreting angel whose response to Enoch supplements that of the first angel, verse 2b. The point here seems to be that by bringing to the righteous the measurements of the place of their future habitation, the angels provide the righteous with the ropes or the moorings that stabilize them or enable them to rely through faith on the name of the Lord of Spirits. In this interpretation, the measuring lines become ropes anchored in the Lord. The Ethiopic noun ma'asar means ties and often translates Greek something. What does that say?
Desmos.
Or asar, to bind, in Aramaic and Hebrew. Thus, if we can trust the Ethiopic, the original noun denoted a line that secured a connection between the righteous and the Lord. The verb here translated rely occurs in 48:4, where the Son of Man is depicted as a staff on which one can lean.
Okay.
Here with a different image, but the same point of comparison. The Lord of Spirits is a rope that one can hang on to, although the author does not employ the language in 46:8. It is unclear whether the angels are bringing back their measurements of the garden in order to assure the righteous of their future there, or whether, as Dillman suggests, whoever Dillman is, these measurements are being taken from the prototype of the New Jerusalem.
Right. And the New Jerusalem is also another theme that pops up in Revelation, in expectation of a New Jerusalem.
And keeps going on to say about how the angels in other cases were measuring Jerusalem itself. Then in verse 4, it says that basically verse 4 continues that imagery.
Sure. All right. Well, let's continue. And these measurements will reveal all the secrets of the depths of the earth, and those who were destroyed by the desert, and those who were devoured by beasts, and those who were devoured by the fish of the sea, so that they may return and rely on the day of the chosen one. For no one will be destroyed in the presence of the Lord of Spirits, and no one is able to be destroyed. So it's a very resurrection-y type of thing, especially
Just
for...
like to say you have an eternal spirit, basically.
Well, either way, they're going to resurrect...
That second part, I mean.
They're going to resurrect in some form, and this is... seems that it's especially geared towards those who, like, you know, we don't have, like, death certificates for, like the ones who are lost to time.
Gotcha, the unknown soldier who was identified.
Yeah.
Recently.
The Hermenia commentary states that this verse 5, well, you got past verse 5, right?
Well, that was verse 5.
Yeah. Verse 5 is just explicitly stating things that were implicit in verses 3 through 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that makes sense with the chosen will begin to dwell with the chosen.
Yeah.
Maybe that makes a little more sense
Didn't make
now.
a lot of sense before.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also a bit where the authors here are asking if the measurement will also include Sheol.
Maybe. Anyways, let's continue here. The enthronement of the chosen one. And all who are in the heights of heaven received a command and power, and one voice and one light like fire were given to him. And that one, before anything, they blessed with their voice, and they exalted and glorified with wisdom. And they were wise in speech and in the spirit of life. And the Lord of Spirits seated the chosen one upon the throne of glory, and he will judge all the works of the holy ones in the heights of heaven, and in the balance he will weigh their deeds. And when he will lift up his face to judge their secret ways according to the word of the name of the Lord of Spirits, and their path according to the way of the righteous judgment of the Lord of Spirits, they will all speak with one voice and bless and glorify and exalt and sanctify the name of the Lord of Spirits. So, you know, kind of what we were talking about with, you know, weighing their deeds and stuff. You can have that image of a scale if you please. Obviously, there is no actual scale here, but you can.
I like thinking of it as computer code and that they're literally analyzing aspects of one versus the other, or perhaps, just like a compare and contrast paper.
You can think of it however you like.
Yeah, please add your own allegories.
And all the host of the heavens will cry out, and the holy ones in the heights, and the hosts of the Lord, the cherubim, the seraphim, and the Ophanim. I remember Ophanim from somewhere. I remember covering that somewhere.
Yeah, they're the same as these Asakian or whatever, the lowest form of angel inbreed.
Oh, was that it?
It's another name for it, and I kept calling it another name, but that's one of them, yes.
Wait, was that the one that we covered when we were talking about the generations of the Watchers?
No, they had another name for it then. But this is definitely...
No, those were the Rephaim, which were the
Rephaim,
descendants of the Nephilim, which were descendants of giants, which were descendants of the Watchers.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
But these guys
are different
these
things.
are lower tier.
These are something else, yeah.
The lowest tier, I thought.
Yeah, if you find anything on that, let me know. And all the angels of power, and all the angels of the dominions, and the chosen one, and the other host who are on the dry land and over the water on that day.
So basically this, at least according to the commentary, is...
161, right?
Yeah, still 161.
This is essentially a description of the heavenly choir.
Heavenly choir. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. And they will raise one voice, and they will bless and glorify and exalt. We already know that. With the spirit of faithfulness, and with the spirit of wisdom, and with a spirit of long suffering. With the spirit of long suffering, and with the spirit of mercy, and with the spirit of judgment and peace, and with the spirit of goodness. And they will all say with one voice, Blessed is he, and blessed be the name of the Lord of spirits forever and ever. And all who sleep not in the heights of heaven will bless him. And all the holy ones who are in the heaven will bless him, and all the chosen who dwell in the garden of life, and every spirit of light that is able to bless and glorify and exalt and sanctify your blessed name, and all the flesh that in excess of its power glorifies and blesses your name forever and ever. For great is the mercy of the Lord of spirits, and he is slow to anger. That's just not true. He is not slow to anger.
Yeah, dude flips on a dime.
Yeah.
He's like, 1 second, yeah, good job, follower. You're doing perfectly. And then, I didn't like that tiny thing you did there.
Yes,
you're dead.
You took a census? That's evil, man. Fuck you, David. And all his deeds, and all his mighty acts, as many as he has done, he has revealed to the righteous and the chosen in the name of the Lord of spirits. Man, this is awful. That was an awful read.
Apparently,
it's just the same shit over and over again.
Apparently, this is some kind of psalm.
Any episode we've ever done.
The repetitions are like some kind of musical thing, probably. It talks about 61 essentially as being a psalm, and
I was gonna say it's very psalm like.
The final line of verse 7 completes and explicates the imagery in verse 6a, having given one power, one voice, imagery, and one light like fire. The heavenly entourage is able to sing praises that are characterized by wisdom and the spirit of life. For the association of fire and wisdom, see the Christian story of Pentecost from Acts 2:3-4. Sure. It states, And there appeared to them tongues of fire distributed and resting on each of them, and they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance.
Yeah, oh boy, there's quite a lot. So anyways, we can hop right into...
There is also quite a bit here about chapters 61 through 64 in Eerdmans.
Sure.
And it says here, it's depicted as a witnessed event. The explicit statement that the Lord of Spirits placed the Chosen One on the throne of glory in 61:8 has reminded many critics of Psalm 110:1, believed to be a royal enthronement psalm. If so, we have another example of Davidic messianism in the parables of Enoch.
Makes sense.
But the bulk of the stuff, and we'll get to once you get to chapter 64.
Sure.
And then you can hand it off to me at 65, I guess.
Fair enough.
When are we? Where are we at?
We're just getting into 62.
Oh,
now.
Thank goodness. You're talking about all these other numbers, and I'm like,
we missed something? Yeah, no.
Gotcha. Okay.
So anyways, chapter 62. And thus the Lord commanded the kings and the mighty and the exalted and those who possess the land. And he said, open your eyes and lift up your horns if you are able to recognize the chosen one. So the chosen one, it sounds like it was someone they knew, maybe, or something they knew, something familiar. And the Lord, like, if you are able to recognize the chosen one.
So he's obscured.
Or maybe obscured, but someone that they might be able to recognize. And the Lord of Spirits seated him upon the throne of his glory, and the Spirit of righteousness was poured upon him, and the word of his mouth will slay all the sinners, and all the unrighteous will perish from his presence. And there will stand up on that day all the kings and the mighty, and the exalted, and those who possess the land. And they will see and recognize that he sits on the throne of his glory, and righteousness is judged in his presence, and no lying word is spoken in his presence. And pain will come upon them as upon a woman in labor, when the child enters the mouth of the womb, and she has difficulty in giving birth. That's some imagery right there.
Yeah.
And one group of them will look at the other, and they will be terrified and will cast down their faces, and pain will seize them when they see that Son of Man sitting on the throne of his glory. And the kings and the mighty and all who possess the land will bless and glorify and exalt him who rules over all, who was hidden. And this kind of plays back to the hidden wisdom imagery from before. For from the beginning the Son of Man was hidden, and the Most High preserved him in the presence of his might, and he revealed him to the chosen, and the congregation of the chosen and holy will be sown, and all the chosen will stand in his presence on that day. And all the kings and the mighty and the exalted and those who rule the land will fall on their faces in his presence, and they will worship and set their hope on that Son of Man, and they will supplicate and petition for mercy from him. But the Lord of Spirits himself will press them, so that they will hasten to depart from his presence, and their faces will be filled with shame. And the darkness will grow deeper on their faces, and he will deliver them to the angels for punishment, so that they may exact retribution from them for the iniquity they did to his children and his chosen ones. And they will be a spectacle for the righteous and for his chosen ones, and they will rejoice over them, because the wrath of the Lord of Spirits rests upon them, and his sword is drunk with them. So this sword is drunk with them. The wrath of the Lord of Spirits.
Yeah.
What verse is that?
12. That's verse 12.
Okay.
So drunk with them. I'm guessing just his wrath is filled because of like he is almost intoxicated because of his anger.
Certainly an expression for bloodshed there. Definitely.
I love bloodshed.
Sure. When
your
sword drinks, basically.
Yeah.
The last line of verse 12 is reminiscent of biblical passages that refer to the bloodbath that results from the execution of divine wrath and warfare.
Love it.
From Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 42. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword will devour flesh. From Isaiah 34, 5-6. My sword has drunk its fill in the heavens. Yahweh has a sword. It is sated with blood. Jeremiah 46:10. The sword shall devour and be sated and drink its fill of their blood. So,
yeah, that's some good imagery. And the righteous and the chosen will be saved on that day. In the faces of the sinners and the unrighteous, they will henceforth not see. And the Lord of spirits will abide over them. And with that Son of Man they will eat. And they will lie down and rise up forever and ever. And the righteous and chosen will have arisen from the earth, and have ceased to cast down their faces, and have put on the garment of glory. And this will be your garment, the garment of life from the Lord of spirits. So their reward is eternal life, basically.
Is that good?
Apparently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't so sure.
I like that darkness imagery earlier.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable with this.
Yeah, and this will be your garment, the garment of life from the Lord of spirits, and your garments will not wear out, and your glory will not fade in the presence of the Lord of spirits. So that is the end of chapter 62. Hey, if you guys are enjoying the stream, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't, all that good stuff. Share it around. Let's get some more people in here.
There's a lot of commentary on this, but most of it is linguistic. And
Sure.
Basically, what they're trying to set out in all of this commentary for this chapter is that there are a lot of parallels between like positive and negative imagery, and also apparently it says that there's similarities in 2nd Isaiah, but it doesn't really go into depth about 2nd Isaiah. I assume what they're talking about is the linguistic choices that they make.
Sure. Anyways, I can continue.
Yeah, why don't you go? I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. I see how it is. In those days, the mighty and the kings who possess the land will implore the angels of his punishment, to whom they have been delivered, to give them a little respite. So, like, they're petitioning, just like the Watchers were petitioning back in the Book of the Watchers.
As above, so below.
Yeah. That they might fall down and worship in the presence of the Lord of spirits, and that they might confess their sins in his presence. They will bless and glorify the Lord of spirits and say, "Blessed is the Lord of spirits and the Lord of kings and the Lord of the mighty and the Lord of the rich and the Lord of the glory and of wisdom."
And the Lord of the rings.
And the Lord of the rings. Your power is splendid in every secret thing for all generations, and your glory forever and ever. Deep are all your secrets and without number, and your righteousness is beyond reckoning. Now we know that we should glorify and bless the Lord of the kings, and him who reigns over all kings. And they will say, "Would that we might be given respite, that we might glorify and praise and make confession in the presence of your glory. Now we desire a little respite, and do not find it. We pursue it, and do not lay hold of it. And light has vanished from our presence, and darkness is our dwelling forever and ever."
See, that's more my
For-
reading. Thank you.
"For in the presence we did not make confession, nor did we glorify the name of the Lord of kings. Our hope was on the scepter of our kingdom and throne of our glory. But on that day, our affliction and tribulation, it does not save us, nor do we find respite to make confession that our Lord is faithful in all his deeds and his judgment and his justice, and his judgments have no respect for persons. And we vanish from his presence because of our deeds, and all our sins are reckoned in righteousness." So this is them petitioning. Life's or not life, afterlife, I guess. Real shitty for them now.
You know, you thought you had a hard knock life. You should try having a hard knock afterlife.
Yeah. That's a great name for an episode.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey,
Hard
hold
knock
on.
afterlife. That's good.
Here it is.
That's
It's
good
recorded.
stuff, yeah.
We've got it. Excellent.
Now they will say to themselves, "Our lives are full of ill-gotten wealth, but it does not prevent us from descending into the flame of the torment of Sheol. And after that, their faces will be filled with darkness and shame in the presence of that Son of Man. and from his presence they will be driven, and a sword will abide before him in their midst. Thus says the Lord of spirits, this is the law and the judgment of the mighty and the kings, and the exalted, and those who possess the land in the presence of the Lord of spirits.
So, there is this presumption that the eternal darkness kind of afterlife is not something that people want.
Right, yeah. But that's I'm all for that. Give me nothing.
If you look
I don't really want to sing praise forever.
Yeah, that sounds like
darkness
it sucks too.
is nice. It's peaceful. It's tranquil. It doesn't have anything that's specifically bad about it, at least. Yeah, I mean,
apparently that sucks.
Yeah,
oh no.
But at the same time, it also says the flame of the torment of Sheol. So I don't know if that's supposed to be kind of hell fire flames, or if that's supposed to be more torment and Sheol.
Based on the descriptions of Sheol that we've gotten, it really doesn't seem like that.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Well, it depends on if you were a sinner, if you were a believer, or if you were nobody who didn't have an opinion.
Yeah, but if you're a believer, you rise up at least according to Enoch.
Yeah.
Right. Or you get a choice during judgment, I guess.
Yeah.
But if you look at Hindu and Buddhist systems, they go for this whole dissolution of self, nirvana, moksha kind of thing. And that is way more akin to the so-called negative afterlife that's being described for those who get punished.
Yeah.
Right? So, I don't think they would see that as a particularly negative thing.
I don't think they would either.
The commentary...
No, not at all. It could be escaping the cycle from someone's perspective.
Yeah, the commentary here, it essentially points out how there's a lot of contrasting imagery.
Yeah. Well, we can just hop right into chapter 64, and it's very short.
Yeah, once you finish 64, I'm going to go... I'm going to read a whole bunch from Eerdmans.
Okay.
So, be ready.
Okay. And other figures I saw hidden in that place. I heard the voice of the angel saying, these are the angels who descended upon the earth. And what was hidden they revealed to human beings, and they led human beings astray so that they committed sin. Obviously, hearkening back to the Book of the Watchers.
Yes. Okay. So, although this passage fairly swims with the biblical allusions...
Fairly swims.
Fair weather friends, but for fish.
Yeah. George Nicholsburg has identified the basic judgment scene as a traditional reworking of Isaiah 52 through 53. Traditional since it is... since a similar handling of the same text is found in Wisdom 4 through 5, I'm assuming Wisdom Solomon, both expand the last Isaianic
close enough
servant song with material from Isaiah 13 through 14, and both feature the exaltation of a formerly persecuted righteous man, Wisdom 4 through 5, or patron of the persecuted righteous, Enoch 62, in the presence of the persecutors, who react in each case with terror and despair as they recognize him, learning too late that their wealth can do them no good and confessing their guilt, even though they realize they have no hope of escaping punishment. The challenge to the kings and mighty to recognize, if you can, the chosen one, 62:1, implies that he is someone they formerly knew but did not even recognize. The most likely interpretation is that the chosen one they were oppressing whenever they persecuted any of the chosen ones, which they did according to 62:11. A similar identification of a heavenly figure with an earthly community is found in Daniel's night vision. See Daniel 7:14 and 27. So the switch in terminology from chosen one to son of man in 62:5 is not inappropriate. As noted in the discussion in chapter 47 that he had, Matthew 25:31 through 46 makes the same point. In addition to the thematic similarity, the Matthean parable begins...
Matthean, doesn't matter though.
Who cares? It's the emphasis on the syllable. Begins with the Son of Man coming in glory and sitting upon the throne of glory, 25:31, using the same phrase found here in 62:3. The phrase also occurs in Matthew 19:28, where it is virtually identical with the wording of Enoch 62:5. Quote, when the Son of Man is seated on the throne of his glory.
Yeah, I mean, I noted that because I just thought it was really interesting that I think it's actually probable that Matthew, or the author of Matthew, I should say, used the parables of Enoch.
Right, because this was probably written towards the end.
They were probably written around the same time. This was probably written, I'm guessing, a little bit beforehand, but there's quite a range for the parables of Enoch.
Yes.
Yeah.
As these are the only texts of their time which speak of a messianic figure sitting on a glorious throne, direct literary influence is not unlikely. The short passage on the salvation of the righteous in 62:13 through 16 forms an interlude with a scene otherwise wholly devoted to the fate of the wicked. Verses 14 through 16 present the two themes of the messianic banquet and garments fit for God's presence, drawing language and imagery from Deuteronomy 8:4, 28:9-5, Isaiah 52:1 through 2, and
Zephaniah
3:13. Exactly the same two themes are combined back to back in yet another Matthean parable, 22:8 through 13. And that was the end of the long block of text that I was going to read from Erdman's. Okay.
So we can hop right into chapter 65. Actually, hold on. Do you hear something?
Not on this show.
You don't hear anything?
Yeah, that's Sunday.
Thought we did it on this show, too.
We've never done it on this show.
Thought we did.
No, because we don't have one of him talking about Friday Apocryphal.
No, we don't at all. It only talks about Sunday school.
Oh, well, I don't hear anything then. I'm crazy.
I'm so glad this audio equipment doesn't glitch out on us or need batteries replaced every 40 minutes.
Yes.
That's always nice.
Okay, let's get into this. Chapter 65. Some Noahic fragments. Noahic, I guess.
My gosh, Ruben, I'm going to listen to that later and laugh. Let's try again.
Who cares? Noah's visions of the earth's destruction and Enoch's interpretation. I figured that Enoch would have ascended by the time Noah was around.
Well,
see, that was in the future, and this book has a bunch of different time frames in which Enoch skips around.
Yeah, this section, 65:1 through 69, contains traditions associated more with Noah than Enoch. Their relationship to one another in the book of parables is difficult to ascertain.
Yeah, so they go over this quite a bit here. So this section of the parables consists of 3 narrative segments. 2 of them are explicitly associated with Noah, 65:1 through 66:3 and 67:1 through 68:1. And the third, on present evidence, is loosely connected to the second, 68:2 through 69:1. Scholarly consensus, since Lawrence's 1821 translation.
Hey, it was you.
It was me. I did it. Has identified these segments, plus 69:2 through 25, as a major interpolation into an earlier form of the book of parables. The following are telltale signs that these chapters are in fact an interpolation. 1, at the beginning of chapter 65, verse 1 or verse 4, depending on the manuscript, the first person narrator is Noah rather than Enoch. Similarly, the narrator refers to Enoch, my great-grandfather, in 65:5, 9, and 67:4. 2, in 68:2, Noah states that he received the book of parables from his great-grandfather Enoch, that is, within the book of parables. That is within the book of parables. Noah refers to the book of parables as a text other than the one he is narrating.
Oh my God! So why is this in the book of Enoch?
3, the Noahic section, and perhaps 69 22 through 25 separate what is presently the conclusion of the Great Judgment, scene 63:12, with 64 1 through 2 as problematic, from a short section 69:26 through 29, whose theme and language indicate that it was at one time an integral part of that scene. And then we're going to get to that commentary once we get to 69. 69.
And then 70 and 71.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
Ruined it.
let's do this. 65. In those days.
Oh, so we can't say we finish on 69. Damn.
No.
See, that's on you.
No, no.
Well, I mean,
the whole
it's on
thing, the
the
two
authors.
two chapters afterwards, that would be a shit show.
Yeah. In those days, Noah saw that the earth had tilted, and its destruction was near. And he set out from there and went to the ends of the earth and cried to his great-grandfather Enoch. And Noah said 3 times with a bitter voice, "Hear me, hear me, hear me."
What?
So either he said that 3 times or that was the 3 times that he said. And after that, there was great quaking upon the earth, and a voice was heard from the heaven, and I fell on my face. And Enoch, my great-grandfather, came and stood by me and said to me, "Why have you cried to me with bitter cry and lamentation?" And I said to him, "Tell me what's happening upon the earth, that the earth staggers so and shakes, lest I perish with it." So obviously he's never experienced an earthquake.
Yeah, and the earth is it's tilted
Yes.
also.
So, can we get a shirt with "I fell on my face"? It's come up enough,
It has.
and it's pretty funny to me. I know it means prayer, but I
Yeah.
just imagine
or
a guy,
it means like, reverence and
Sure,
bowing.
Sure, bowing, exactly. But
So you would like a shirt of
with like
somebody
a guy
bowing.
who's planked and just falls over, and a quote from the Bible in a bunch of different places that say "I fell on my face," or even Enoch. It's fine.
We could do a shirt where it's the earth as a flat
And it's tilted.
dome that's tilted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you fell on your face.
We could even do like a little snow globe effect inside of there.
We could, you're right.
Yeah.
And then you have a guy falling on his face.
Yeah.
Either way, I want that.
Chris just wants someone on their face.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, Chris has never seen anything about Japanese culture where they regularly prostrate.
Again, I was aware of the context. It's more humorous if they are from an upright position to immediately on the ground on their face.
Yeah.
Talk about slapstick and not understanding it.
And
So you want to see Ric Flair. Ric Flair does that, or he used to at least.
He used to do what? Oh, just fall on his face?
Yes.
Yes, please do that.
Okay.
Get a Ric Flair shirt and add a bunch of Bible quotes.
great. And after this, my great-grandfather Enoch took me by my hand and raised me up and said to me, "Go, for I have asked the Lord of spirits about the quaking upon the earth. A command has gone forth from the presence of the Lord against the inhabitants of the earth, that their end is accomplished. For they have learned all the secrets of the angels and all the violence of the Satans, and all their powers, the hidden secrets and the powers of those who practice sorcery, and the powers of brightly colored garments, and the powers of those who cast molten images for all the earth." These are references to the Book of the Watchers. "And how silver is produced from the dust of the earth, and how soft metal is poured out." Poured out is amending Yakawen, which means
Which
exists. It is verse 7.
Okay.
But Yakawen means exists, and they amended it to Yetkawa, which means is poured out on the earth. "For lead and tin are not produced from the earth like the former. There is a fountain that produces them, and an angel stands in it, and the angel is preeminent. And he said to me, because of their iniquity, their judgment has been accomplished and will not be withheld in my presence. Because of their sorceries, positing a corruption from Aramaic churshi to chidshi, because all Ethiopic manuscripts read months instead of sorceries, that they have searched out and learned the earth will be destroyed, and those who dwell on it, and these will never have a place of refuge forever, or possibility of repentance in the footnote for refuge forever. For they have shown them what is hidden, and they are judged. But as for you, my son or grandson, the Lord of spirits knows that you are pure and blameless of this reproach concerning the mysteries, and he has established your name among the holy ones, and he will preserve you from among those who dwell on the earth, and he has established your righteous seed to be kings and for great honors. And from your seed there will flow a fountain of the righteous and holy, and they will be without number forever.
Dude, jizz's rivers made of people. That's what he said.
That's not the statement that is being said. But that's the end of chapter 65.
Okay.
Now we're getting into chapter 66.
Yes, we are.
And after this, he showed me the angels of punishment, who are ready to go forth and let loose all the power of the water that is beneath the earth, that it might be for the judgment and destruction of all who reside and dwell on the earth. And the Lord of spirits commanded the angels who were going forth that they not raise their hands, but that they keep watch. For these angels were in charge of the power of the waters. And I went forth from the presence of Enoch. And that's the end of chapter 66.
Wow, that's pretty brief.
Anything to say about that?
No, it's just some textual stuff like translation.
Yeah. So here is a piece where Noah interacts with Enoch after Enoch has died or arisen.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he's supposed to be pure.
Is this necromancy?
Right,
No,
exactly.
this is right.
Necromancy.
Right. I would not consider that necessarily necromancy, but I would say that it kind of reflects on the traditions of talking to the dead in general. Like if you remember with the Witch of Endor narrative.
Yeah.
So something like that. That I just thought that was that's the same tradition, same kind.
Now
of
we
tradition.
go into the divine oracle about the flood, chapter 67. This is also a short one. In fact, they're all pretty short for a little bit. Okay. And in those days, the word of God came to me and said to me, Noah, your lot has come up to me. A lot without blame, a lot of love and uprightness. And now the angels are making a wooden vessel. And when the angels have completed that task, I will put my hand upon it and protect it. And from it will come the seed of life, and a change will take place, so that the earth will not remain desolate. And I will establish your seed in my presence forever and ever, and I will scatter those who dwell with you, and I will not again bring temptation on the face of the earth. They use dry land for earth, as the footnote says. And they will be blessed and be multiplied on the earth in the name of the Lord. That's the end of chapter 67. So that conflicts with the biblical narrative.
Yeah, definitely.
How
Because
long
it's
did
the
the-
angels that are doing this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah. And also, Noah is being chosen specifically because one of his ancestors was so righteous. Not because of anything about Noah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we can ascertain that
He's probably
Enoch-
fine.
Enoch went off and talked to God about it and was like, "Hey, man, what are you doing?"
Hold on. You
Shaking
said that
things
was
up.
You said that was the end of chapter 67?
Oh, it's the end of this section of chapter 67.
no.
Sorry. Then we have a vision of punishment. They do this weird titling.
Yeah.
Thanks, though.
Yeah.
It was fun to go back.
Yeah. And he will confine those angels who showed iniquity in that burning valley that my great-grandfather Enoch had shown me previously in the west by the mountains of gold and silver and iron and soft metal and tin. And I saw that valley in which there was a great disturbance and troubling waters. So this bit up here, that kind of retroactively changes the story events that happened before, because it was Enoch who was being brought by angels to see those things.
Yeah.
Now we're being told that it's Noah who was being shown by Enoch those things.
Right. And that kind of raises some interesting theological questions. Like, how can someone who has just received revelation just start handing it out to others?
Well, you see, I got some revelation in the mail. Would you like it? I could hand it to you.
No, I'm okay. I have enough Bibles. Because one of the big Christological debates in the 4th century was if Jesus was just like this guy that taught about salvation. He was like a prophet and whatnot. Like, through his death, you can't get salvation, because like, how could someone who is just a man that had just received this power himself give it to others? Yeah, that was one of the debates.
Well, he was chosen.
In the process of being chosen, you also learn full mastery of how to choose other people. Wow, who would have guessed?
Amazing.
Yep. And I saw a valley in which there was a great disturbance and troubling of the waters. And when all this happened, from that fiery molten metal and the troubling of the waters in that place, the smell of sulfur was generated. And it mixed with those waters, and the valley of those angels who have led humans astray burned beneath the ground. And through the valleys of that area, rivers of fire issue, where those angels will be judged who led astray those who dwell on the earth.
Right. So we talked about the rivers of fire before.
It's the fires of the west.
Yeah. So here's some interesting stuff about this. Having recounted God's promise that he would be delivered from the destruction of the flood, Noah now announces the coming judgment of the fallen angels, which he places in the fiery valley that Enoch described in the account of his journey visions. That location, with its burning fire, suggests that the author is referring to the angels' temporary confinement rather than the place of their final punishment in, quote, the burning furnace. As the site of the punishment of the kings and the mighty, however, this is a place of everlasting punishment.
It sounds like they're describing lava. Like,
sure.
Outright. They talk about the smell of sulfur, waters beneath the ground.
Well, I mean, I've never been around lava, so I don't know.
Really?
When would I have been around lava?
If you were in a lava tube?
They're talking about...
I was never in a lava tube.
Oh, well, you might have seen magma.
They talk about...
Magma's on the surface.
Rivers of fire.
Yeah.
For one thing. But they also go into how the angels who will be punished, the watchers, get buried underneath and are trapped in flames underneath the earth. Now, what happens when lava or magma has continual contact with water?
It depends on the type of water or magma. As water and magma have different continuities, different consistencies. For instance, the Hawaiian Islands are formed by a rather fast-flowing but quick-forming, and not slow-moving in one way, but quick to form an island in another way. And other places, obviously, like Mount St. Helen, had a type of very quick solving but fast flowing, so it would build pressure very quickly and it blew its entire top off. There are many types of lava.
Well, I'm assuming that this is like a slow flow because they're rivers of fire,
I don't know. Rivers can go fast.
Rather than being like an explosion out the side of a mountain.
Sure.
And have you gotten through verse 7 yet?
And through the valleys of that area, rivers of fire issue, where the angels will be judged who led astray and those who dwell on the earth. Yeah, I just did.
Okay. Well, I was just checking. So Noah now describes what he saw in the fiery valley that Enoch had shown him. The paradoxical presence of churning waters in the fiery valley suggests an allusion to the flood that is consonant with the violent imagery in 66, 1 through 2. The subterranean waters that will engulf the inhabitants of the earth in the flood are here instrumental in the punishment of the angels. The churning of the waters, moreover, is associated with the gushing of fiery molten metal, which recalls the angels' prediction that the metallic mountains will melt before the presence of the chosen one. The mention of subterranean hot springs that generate the smell of sulfur refers to the environs of Kaliro, which we'll get into that in just that's the very next thing that we'll get into. And the attribution of the smell to the activity of fiery molten metal may indicate that this author has experienced or knows accounts of volcanic eruptions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get further into it.
Sure.
I'll throw this over to you at 69.
Okay.
And in those days, those waters will serve the kings and the mighty and the exalted and those who dwell on the earth for the healing of their flesh. Many manuscripts read their soul and body. And the judgment of their spirits. And their spirits are full of pleasure, so that their flesh will be judged because they denied the Lord of spirits. And they see their judgment every day and do not believe in his name. And the more their flesh is burnt, the more a change takes place in their spirits forever and ever, because before the Lord of spirits, no one speaks a lying word. For judgment will come upon them because they believe in the pleasure of their flesh, but they deny the Lord of spirits.
Their flesh. Ugh.
Yeah. So, their spirit. So they get healing of their flesh and or souls.
Yes. So let's talk about this part a little bit.
Yes.
Well, actually, was that verse 13 that you just finished?
No,
Okay, get through verse 13.
That's the end of this thing. So.
Oh, this is the end of the chapter?
No, not yet.
Oh, geez, this is so segmented.
The end of verse 13 is the end of the chapter.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, just finish that up.
And those same waters will be changed in those days, for when those angels are judged in those waters, those springs of water will change their temperature. And when the angels come up, the waters of those springs will be changed and become cold. And I heard Michael answer and say, this judgment with which the angels are judged is a testimony for the kings and the mighty who possess the land. For these waters of judgment serve for the healing of the flesh of the kings, positing a corruption of Aramaic milky kings to milky angels in all Ethiopic manuscripts.
Because if you remember Moloch, or the letters that are for it, MLK, it's actually kind of coincidentally means king. Yeah,
David Moloch or Malik.
Yeah. So like if you take away the David King.
Yeah. And for the pleasure of their flesh, and they see and do not believe that those waters will be changed and become a fire that burns forever.
Yes. So these healing waters, let's talk about that. So the text now moves on to the punishment of the kings and the mighty, which will be executed at the same location as that of the fallen angels just described. With this shift, the focus also changes from the subterranean fiery molten metal to the spewing waters that have been heated by it. The consensus of scholars identifies these waters as the hot springs of Kaliro, which are located by the northeast shore of the Dead Sea on the south side of the rocky spine that forms the south wall of the Wadi Zerkamein, and almost directly west of the fortress of Machaerus. The site of an anchorage and a village that included a large villa and thermal bath complex constructed by Herod the Great, Kaliro was visited by Herod in his last days as he and his physicians futilely sought to assuage the severe pains of his terminal illness.
Yes. There have been other references to healing springs.
Yes. And we covered I remember in our first episode, we covered how this is used as part of a dating thing.
Yes.
Well, mineral baths do, in fact, help people with illness, but it is a bit of a crack pottery to think it can cure everything.
Yeah.
Right. Fountain of Youth. Okay. This next verse, 68:1, presupposes the existence of the book of which it is a part and appears to be an interpolation. So, 68. And after this, my great-grandfather gave me the explanation of all the secrets in a book, and the parables that were given to him, and gathered them for me in the words of the book of parables.
Incredible.
Take a look. It's in a book.
In the book of parables.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, there's not much more to say about that. We already covered that.
No, there isn't. Let's continue. A fragment.
That's ridiculous.
A fragment of a conversation between Michael and Raphael. And on that day, Michael answered and said to Raphael, "The power of the Spirit seizes me and aggravates me because of the harshness of the judgment of the secrets, the judgment of the angels." Some manuscripts omit "of the angels." For who can endure the harshness of the judgment that has been executed before which they melt? And again Michael answered and said to Raphael, "Who is there who would not soften his heart?" The oldest manuscript reads, "Whose heart does not become guilty over it, and whose kidneys would not be troubled by this word." Judgment, some manuscripts connected with this word read "word of judgment," has gone forth against them, who have led them out thus. But when they stood before the Lord of spirits, Michael spoke thus to Raphael, "I will not take their part under the eye of the Lord, because the Lord of spirits is angry with them, because they act as if they were like the Lord."
Yeah, which is kind of interesting because a plan the name Michael, who is quote, who is like God, that's the name, is traditional. And on one occasion, it depicts him as the angelic opponent of a heavenly figure who is the patron of a king who arrogantly presumes to be like God. This portrayal of a king as one who strives to be like God, taken together with the parable's emphasis on the hubris of the kings and the mighty, may indicate that the present verse is alluding to the kings and the mighty, perhaps through an implied association of the homonyms kings and angels. I can't read the Hebrew there. If you want to do that.
I like that you guys have to pass forth between Greek and Hebrew.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's like Malachi and Malakah.
Oh, that's sad. That's a bummer. I like cats. I love cats. I love every kind of cat. I wish I could hug them all, but I can't.
Yeah, either Malachi or Malakah.
Okay.
So let me do this last bit here.
But I should actually finish that. I don't want to quote mine. But as the text reads in this section, it refers explicitly to the angels. There we go. Okay.
Thank you.
Therefore, everything that is hidden will come upon them forever and ever. For no angel or human will receive their lot, but they alone have received their judgment forever and ever. And this last verse is the first verse is 69, but I'm going to read it anyway because
it's part of like the part of the preceding section. Yeah. You just put down 69 though.
Yeah, 69.
Giggity.
And after this judgment, they will trouble them and aggravate them because they have shown this to those who dwell on the earth.
Should have done it. You done goofed. You messed up.
Yep.
Here's some commentaries.
Oh, wow. Thanks.
Oh, and you're trading me a whole translation?
Yeah. This also has the translation in
it. Yeah, I know.
Way to trade down, Lawrence.
It's the same one. Anyways. So here's 2 lists of the fallen angels. Look, the names of those angels, and these are their names. Their first is Shemihaza, and the second is Artekof. The third is Ramashel. The fourth is Kokabel. The fifth is Terrell. The sixth is Ramel. The seventh is Daniel. The eighth is Zakel. The ninth is Barakel. Not this again.
Tell me when you get to the end of the
These are
first
my favorite
list.
sections.
Okay. Yeah,
of any of your readings.
Will do. Where was I? I'll start over. I'm kidding. The 8th is Zakel. The 9th is Barakel. The 10th is Asael. The 11th is Hermani. The 12th is Matarel. The 13th is Basasel. The 14th is Ananel. The 15th is Turel. Didn't we just get Turel? Yeah, we did. We just had Turel.
Different Terrell.
The 5th is Terrell, and the 15th is Terrell.
Yeah, he shows up twice.
Okay.
He's really important.
Amazing. The 16th is Shamsiel. The 17th is Sariel. The 18th is Tumiel. The 19th is Turiel. The 20th is Yamiel. The 21st is Azazel. These are the chiefs of their angels and their names, and the leaders of the hundreds, and the leaders of their 50s, and the leaders of their 10s. So I don't know if you want to add something there. I'm sorry for everyone listening.
All of them have a similar name set.
Well, yeah, they all
except
end in L.
Hermione.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's a joke.
Bet. Okay. Yeah, JK.
Yeah.
Rolling.
Chapter 69 begins with 2 lists of fallen angels. The first is simply copied from 6:2 in the Book of the Watchers.
Sure.
But the second gives cryptic information about 5 angels who are often identified by critics as the elusive Satans of 47 and 65:6. Since the first of these, Yakan, is said to have led astray the angelic sons, bringing them down to the earth. And, well, what verse are you on right now?
I just got done with 3.
Okay. We're going to get into that. But essentially, Yakan, Asbeel, and I guess others.
Like Azazel is probably one of them.
They're identified by some as being Satans, along with Penamue and
Yeah, we're going to get into, because that's just the first list that we just covered.
Yes, that is the first list.
Anyways, and the name of the first is Yakan. This is the one who led all the children of the angels astray and brought them down upon the earth and led them astray through the daughters of men. And the name of the second is Asbeel. This one gave evil counsel to the children of the holy angels and led them astray so that they ruined their bodies through the daughters of men.
Hold on a sec. There is a bit here. So the commentary, the Hermenia commentary states, there is, however, a rationale for the paired lists. Together, they match the paired lists in 6, 7 through 8, and 8, 1 through 3. The first is a numbered list in Greek and Aramaic that contains the names of the angels but not their functions. Granting some corruptions and one addition, its content is identical to that in 6, 7 through 8. The second list, like chapter 8, contains fewer names and describes the sins of the respective angels. These sins consist of, well, stuff that we're going to get into, but it says, given the parallel between these verses, it might be questioned whether 69:2b through 3 is an interpolation into a list that can be consisted of 69:2a plus 4 through 12, or whether verses 2 through 12 reflect an original patching together of the material in 6, 7 through 8 with a list created in imitation of 8, 1 through 3. The former is almost certainly the case, since the list in verses 4 through 12 is consonant with the parable's understanding of the angelic sins in a way that the first list is not. Given this compatibility, it remains uncertain whether the second list was part of an early form of the parables, or whether, like chapters 65:1 through 69:1, it is an interpolation. It has at least one important element in common with both the body of the parables and the Noachic interpolation, and with elements that occur in only one or the other of these. And it gives verse lists for some things. But
Sure.
the basic things are angels corrupting woman, revealing things to lead humans astray, metallurgy, and magic.
Good old magic. Gotta love it. Anyways, I'll continue through these other ones. These other Satans, maybe?
Go ahead.
No, just angels. And the name of the third is Gadriel. This is the one who showed all the blows of death to the sons of men, and he led Eve astray. And he showed the shield and the coat of mail and the sword for battle and all the implements of death to the sons of men. And from his hand they have gone forth against those who dwell on the earth from that day and forever and ever. So the interesting thing here about Gadriel is
that it led Eve astray.
Yeah. So Gadriel, it's interesting because in the show Supernatural, Gadriel is the guy who was assigned to guard the garden, but he let in the snake. Here, it's very different. Here,
He's the snake.
Presumably, he is the snake. Maybe he's the snake, and he also did a
Serpent,
whole bunch
please.
of other serpent. He did a whole bunch of other stuff that wasn't just that. It was he gave them equipment for battle and stuff. And the name of the fourth is Penume. I don't know.
Penamue.
Okay. This one showed the sons of men the bitter and the sweet, and they showed them all the secrets of their wisdom. He gave humans knowledge about writing with ink and papyrus, and therefore many went astray from of old and forever and until this day. For humans were not born for this purpose, to confirm the trustworthiness through pen and ink. For humans were not created to be different from the angels, so that they should remain pure and righteous. And death, which ruins everything, would not have laid its hands on them. But through this, their knowledge, they are perishing. And through this power, it devours us.
So
It's very interesting that someone who wrote this down would write that.
Don't write it down.
Also,
as is written.
It goes against what you see in a lot of modern apologetics, where they say that the Bible is the written word of God. Right,
yeah.
But that is something that the Enochian, either or, tradition seems to stand against. There's a little bit in Eerdmans here about what you just read, 69:11. It says, when we compare a passage like this with the stark double predestination found in the famous instruction on the two spirits in the Qumran Manual of Discipline, 1 QS 3-4, we can appreciate
3-4.
Another reason why the Dead Sea sect may have deliberately ignored the parables of Enoch.
Actually, I already have this pulled up. A theoretical discussion of the two spirits that control humankind and determine who is good and who is evil, why upright people sin and why the good suffer, and what the manifestations are of both spirits. And this is the actual text. A text belonging to the instructor, who is to enlighten and teach all the sons of light about the character and fate of humankind, all their spiritual varieties with accompanying signs, all their deeds generation by generation, and their visitation for afflictions together with eras of peace. All that is now and ever shall be originates with the God of knowledge. Before things come to be, he has ordered all their designs, so that when they do come to exist, at their appointed times as ordained by his glorious plan, they fulfill their destiny, a destiny impossible to change. He controls the laws governing all things, and he provides for all their pursuits. He created humankind to rule over the world, appointing for them 2 spirits in which to walk until the time ordained for his visitation. These are the spirits of truth and falsehood. Upright character and fate originate with the habitation of light. Perverse.
Who are these
perverse,
2 guys specifically?
Who's 2 what?
That walk with man, one to
No, they're 2 different things. They're 2 spirits, the truth and falsehood.
Right. Do they have a specific name or?
The spirits of truth and the spirits of falsehood.
They're not angels.
Perverse with the foundation of darkness. The authority of the Prince of Light extends to the governance of all righteous people. Therefore, they walk in the paths of light. Correspondingly, the authority of the angel of darkness embraces the governance of all wicked people. So they walk in the paths of darkness. It goes on for quite a while more, but I think you kind of get the idea.
Yeah. Similar to our conversation between Michael and the other one, Gabriel.
Sure. All right. So I can probably continue here unless...
I don't have much to add in until the end.
Okay. And the name of the 5th is Kasdea. This is the one who showed the sons of men all the evil blows of spirits and demons and the blows of the... is this supposed to be fetus?
What is it?
It says foetus, but it might be supposed to be fetus.
Might be fetus.
Okay, in the womb. So that...
Yeah, it's fetus.
Yeah, so that it aborts. And the blow of the soul, the bite of the serpent, and the blow that comes in the noonday heat, the son of the serpent, whose name is Tabaet. Anything on Tabaet? Or no?
Sounds like Tiamat.
Not really. There
No.
isn't an extensive piece about Tabayat.
Or on 6912?
Yeah, 6912 talks about Kasdea
Okay, but not about... Okay.
as a 5th Satan in
Sure.
charge of abortions and miscarriages.
Sure.
One of the most durable types in demonology. Here he seems to be identified with the dread midday demon of Psalm 91:6, which
We will get to
We
sooner.
will
Yeah, we'll
get
get to
to.
eventually.
eventually.
Sooner
Anyways.
than later. We're in Psalms.
This is the number of Kasbeel, the chief of the oath, which he showed to the holy ones when he was dwelling on high in glory. And its, or his name, is Becca. This one told Michael that he should show him the secret name so that they might mention it in the oath, so that those who showed the sons of men everything that was in secret might quake at the name and the oath. And this is the power of this oath, for it is powerful and strong. And he placed this oath, Akka, I don't know what that's supposed to be. Let's see. Corrupt, one manuscript reads, equi, evil oath. Okay, so an evil oath, maybe. In the hand of Michael. And these are the secrets of this oath. And they are strong through his oath. And through that oath, the heaven was suspended. And then there's a break in the text. So I'm guessing all the manuscripts are corrupted. Before the age was created and forever. Through it, the earth was founded upon the waters, and from the hidden recesses of the mountains come forth the beautiful waters, from the creation of the age and forever. And through that oath the sea was created, and as its foundation for the time of wrath he placed for it the sand, and it does not pass over it from the creation of the age and forever. And through that oath the pillars of the deep were made firm, and they have stood, and are not shaken from their place from of old and forever.
So about Kasbel, both authors here say that it's a confusing section and it's unclear why it's there or what's happening.
Wait, what's going on? I don't know what's happening.
But interesting enough, the name Kasbel itself is problematic. It could correspond to Hebrew or Aramaic Casval, angel of sorcery, thus suggesting that the angel employed a form of enchantment or witchcraft to gain his end. Alternatively, it may reflect the Aramaic/Hebrew Casval, meaning lying angel, thus emphasizing his deceit in extracting information from Michael. Finally, Casbal and Ashbaal could be variants of the same name, with one of them being a corruption of the other due to the similar shape of the Ethiopic letters Aleph and Kaf. Several considerations support this explanation. 1. Both of these figures are explicitly associated with a group of other rebel angels. 2. Asbal's deed in verse 5 parallels Casbal's deed actions in verses 13 through 14. In verse 5, he gives the angels evil counsel that leads them astray. Here he tricks Michael into divulging information he has no right to obtain. 3. The identification of these two angels with each other would explain why, different from verses 4 through 12, this angel is mentioned here with no explanation of who he is. If these two angels are one and the same, it is perhaps more likely that the correct name is Casbiel. For such a figure in God's employ, see 1 Kings 22:21 through 23, where he talks about the lying spirit or spirit of a lie. But there is no certainty here. Also, the meaning of the number of Casbal is uncertain and obscure. It might be that the text is defective and number referred to an ordinal no longer preserved that corresponds to first, second, etc. That's postulation.
I'll continue.
Yep.
And through that oath, the sun and the moon complete their course, and they do not transgress their command from of old and forever. And through that oath, the stars complete their courses, and he calls their names, and they answer him from of old and forever. And likewise, the spirits of the water, of the winds, and all the breezes and their paths from all the quarters of the winds, and they are preserved the voices of the thunder and the light of the lightnings, and there are preserved the storehouses of the hail, and the storehouses of the hoarfrost, and the storehouses of the mist, and the storehouses of the rain and the dew, and all of these confess and give thanks before the Lord of spirits, and they glorify him with all their might, and their food is in all thanksgiving, and they give thanks and glorify and exult in the name of the Lord of spirits forever and ever. And over them this oath is mighty. And
so that whole verse that you just read, 22 through 24, it says, these verses appear to be an interpolation. Mm-hmm. They do not follow the poetic form of verses 17 through 21. They do not mention the oath, and indeed, they interrupt the continuity between verses 17 through 21 and verse 25. Yeah,
but pretty much the only thing that remains the same is this idea of pretty much everything in the universe acting as God planned it out.
Yeah. It says, this section has been added to fill out a list of heavenly elements, begun with the sun, the moon, and the stars in verses 20 through 21. That the heavenly elements can praise God fits well with the notion of personified universe, evident, for example, in the motif of obedience and disobedience. For a nice example of this, see Job 38:7, where it says, when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy.
And over them this oath is mighty, and by it they are preserved, and their paths are preserved, and their course will not perish. And they had great joy, and they blessed and glorified and exulted, because the name of that Son of Man had been revealed to them. So now we're finally back to the Son of Man stuff.
Yeah.
And he sat on the throne of his glory, and the whole judgment was given to the Son of Man. And he will make sinners vanish and perish from the face of the earth. And those who led the world astray will be bound in chains, and in the assembly place of their destruction they will be shut up, and all their works will vanish from the face of the earth. And from then on there will be nothing that is corruptible, for that Son of Man has appeared, and he has sat down on the throne of his glory, and all evil will vanish from his presence, and the word of that Son of Man will go forth, and will prevail in the presence of the Lord of spirits. This is the third parable of Enoch.
So this section, it says, several parallels with the Gospel of John suggest themselves immediately. John 5:22, 27, 12:48. And the Son of Man on his glorious throne reminds us again of Matthew 19:28. It has frequently been suggested that this passage is out of place and may originally have followed 62:16 or 63:12. But in chapter 41, a cosmic oath passage, 41, 1 through 8a, passes directly into the description of the final judgment, exactly as here. These verses may imply in context that the name of the Son of Man is parallel to or identified with the cosmic oath or name, which sustains all creation. In any event, it's clear that knowledge about the Messiah, divinely bestowed on the righteous and chosen, includes especially his identity, and this wisdom assures them a place in the renewed world of eternal light and joy about to dawn on them.
All right, so this stuff that we're about to go over now are a set of concluding appendices.
Yeah, they're epilogues, according to Eerdmans. Eerdmans say, many scholars believe that these chapters are a later addition by a different hand, mostly because Enoch appears to be identified with the Son of Man in 71:14.
Yeah, which is very different than all the other Son of Man stuff we got.
This is thought to contradict with the rest of the parables of Enoch, where Enoch has been viewing this messianic figure with no hint that he is seeing himself.
Right.
Furthermore, the Son of Man appears to be pre-existent, whereas Enoch was born seventh from Adam.
Yeah.
These and other objections do not hold up well against scrutiny, however, and there is no convincing reason to regard chapters 70 through 71 as secondary.
I don't know, man.
In particular, the prayer of Joseph, a 1st to 2nd century AD mystical account of Jacob's encounter with the angel in Genesis 32, provides an excellent parallel to the parables of Enoch. The author of the prayer did not think it impossible for earthborn mortals to be simultaneously created before any work, or that a human could have an angelic heavenly double and yet be unaware of this, or at least forget it until they're reminded. And then there's some Son of Man stuff that we'll point out once we get to 71.
So which angels or Satans are you dupes of? Don't lie to me, guys.
I think the obvious answer is all of them.
The Satan.
Yeah, the Satan, the devil himself, with the horns and the pitchfork, all that.
Yep, and the tail and the
That's
goat legs.
That's my guy right there.
Basically the great god Pan.
Love him.
Congrats.
And after this, while he was living, his name was lifted up into the presence of that Son of Man, and into the presence of the Lord of spirits from among those who dwell on the earth. He was lifted up on the chariots of the wind, and his name departed from among them. And from that day I was not reckoned among them, and he set me between two winds, between the north and the west, where the angels took cords to measure for me the place of the chosen and the righteous. So instead of measuring the chosen and the righteous themselves, now this cord is being used to measure the place of the chosen and righteous, which of course shares imagery with the same books.
Yeah,
that we talked about before, Jeremiah and Ezekiel.
Yeah, so for this whole chapter, essentially what is pointed out in the Hermenia commentary is that the whole chapter is an appendix to the Book of Parables, and that's basically it.
Okay. And there I saw the first fathers and the righteous who were dwelling in that place from of old. And after that, my spirit was taken away, and it ascended to heaven. And I saw the sons of the holy angels, and they were stepping on flames of fire. And their garments were white, as were their tunics. And the light of their faces was like snow. And I saw 2 rivers of fire, and the light of that fire shone like hyacinth. What is that?
It's a flower.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it burns pretty. It's like an oily flower. It would burn quite brightly.
Okay. And I fell on my face before the Lord of spirits, and the angel Michael, one of the archangels, took me by my right hand and raised me up, and he brought me out to all the secrets, and he showed me all the secrets of mercy, and he showed me all the secrets of righteousness, and he showed me all the secrets of the ends of heaven, and all the treasuries of the stars, and all the luminaries go forth from there before the holy ones. And he took my spirit, even me, Enoch, to the heavens to the heaven of heavens. And I saw there, as it were, a house built of hailstones, and between those stones were tongues of living fire. So this is the same kind of imagery that we saw before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And my spirit saw in that light a circle that encircled that house of fire. From the 4 sides of that house came rivers full of living fire, and they encircled that house, and around it were seraphim and cherubim and Ophanim again, we see.
Yeah, because it's an appendix.
Yeah. And those who sleep not, but guard the throne of his glory. And I saw angels that could not be counted, thousands of thousands and 10,000 times 10,000. They were surrounding that house. And Michael and Raphael and Gabriel and Phanuel and the holy angels who are in the heights of heaven were going in and out of that house. And there came out of that house Michael and Raphael and Gabriel and Phanuel and many holy angels without number. And with them was the head of days, and his head was white and pure as wool, and his garments were indescribable. And I fell on
coat of many colors, guys.
Yeah. And I fell on my face, and all my flesh melted, and my spirit was transformed, and I cried out with a loud voice with the spirit of power, and I blessed and praised and exalted. So his flesh melted off, and he's just a spirit now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And those blessings, so we should assume that also happened to Elijah when he ascended.
We should.
Okay. And those blessings that went forth from my mouth were acceptable to the presence of that head of days. And that head of days came with Michael and Raphael and Gabriel and Phanuel and thousands and tens of thousands of angels without number. And he came to me and greeted me with his voice and said to me, "You are that Son of Man who was born for righteousness, and righteousness dwells on you, and the righteousness of the head of days will not forsake you." And he said to me, "He proclaims peace to you in the name of the age that is to be. For from there peace has proceeded from the creation of the age." How are you guys liking my God voice?
I was thinking
so godly.
it's like Metatron.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Metatron.
You're welcome. "And thus you will have it forever and ever, and all will walk on your path, since righteousness will never forsake you. With you will be their dwelling, and with you their lot, and from you they will not be separated forever and ever. And thus there will be length of days with that Son of Man, and there will be peace for the righteous, and the path of truth for the righteous, in the name of the Lord of spirits forever and ever."
Yeah, so
That's the end of the parables, and that's the end of that book.
yeah,
What about 71?
Eerdman.
That
Whoopsie doodle.
That was 71.
70 and 71.
Wow.
Yeah, they're all
No one
mixed
told
together.
me.
Whoops.
But I guess I couldn't have done anything about it.
Well, they say that there are references to Genesis 32. It says, it has been noted that all the messianic titles in the parables of Enoch, Son of Man, Chosen One, Righteous, and designate in their original biblical context heavenly representatives of the community of saints on earth. They are ciphers for the redeemed. It says, unlike Daniel's Son of Man, however, the mystical heaven-to-earth dynamic of the chosen/righteous one in the Isaianic servant songs is closely bound up in these passages with the servant's name. He is repeatedly called Jacob and Israel in Isaiah, even though his name is also distinguished from Jacob and Israel. Daniel has no concern for the name of his Son of Man figure, but the parable of Enoch equates him with the Isaianic servant and so naturally shows great interest in his name. It also says here that the one who gave the name of the Son of Man to Enoch was likely Phanuel, but I don't see that reflected, at least in this translation.
Right, yeah.
So, with that being said,
that was the parable. Those were the parables of Enoch.
Yes. The parables of Enoch. The second book.
The second book of First Enoch. So next week we'll be, to start off the year, I guess.
Yes, last Friday Apocryphal Podcast this year.
Yep.
Yep.
And to start off next year and the shows, we are going to be talking about the book of luminaries, or the astronomical book.
Yeah,
goes by many
we'll read
names.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not long. It's 10 chapters.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there. Anyways, thank you everyone for joining us. If you guys like what we do, drop a like or a dislike.
Subscribe.
Yeah, comments and subscriptions are great too. Share it around if you want other people to watch this show for whatever reason.
Read the books that we read if you want to.
Yeah. So we got Twitter, we got Facebook, got Teespring. And until the end of the year, there are only a few days left. Until the end of the year.
All caps.
Yes, all
Behold.
caps. Behold. Promo code BEHOLD. You get 20% off on everything at our Teespring store. And that's just fantastic.
Yeah, totally worth it.
Yes. And of course, our Amazon wish list, which is in the description. If you want to get us like books, or it's just books on there.
Yeah, we want books.
Yeah, if you want to see videos on something, get us a book about it. We will use it as a source, definitely. It's going to happen.
Yep.
Or we'll use it here on this show, depending on whatever you get. But also Patreon.
Yep,
Patreon. We got great rewards on Patreon.
Great rewards. We had a patron hangout. We had a patron hangout at the patron hangout.
Yeah, even though multiple people said they would be interested in joining, but whatever, whoop-de-doo.
We had a good time, and if you ever care about seeing or hearing my opinion, that's a good place to take a look, because I'm not usually on camera.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks everyone for joining us, and we will see you on Sunday.